Welcome once again here to Indiana University South Bend Women's Basketball Media Day. My name's Paul Condry. Great that you've stopped along to be with us. Longtime friend, athletic director, women's basketball coach Steve Bruce joining us here. And Coach, I know what an exciting opportunity that lies ahead for your women's basketball team. Coming off a 25-win season a year ago, finished third in the competitive Chicagoland Collegiate Athletic Conference. You brought in a dynamic player for 1 year in Tia Chambers, and already have a solid group of young kids as well as a solid senior core. I don't know if you could be more optimistic in your entire 17 years here at IU South Bend than you have to be coming in this year.
Yeah, I feel like on paper this is the best team we've ever had and will be the best team we've ever had. I talked to the girls in the preseason about your four greatest opponents. You know, I always ask that question, who are your four greatest opponents? I remember when I was at Valparaiso and I was speaking to a sports administration class, and one of the guys in the class was Dan Opland, who was a very good basketball player on our men's team. I said, Dan, who are your four greatest opponents this year? And he started going through the schedule. Well, we play at Duke this year, and Oral Roberts is always very good, and da-da-da-da. And those were good answers, but the real answers for every team every year are 1, illness, 2, ineligibility, 3, injury, and 4, any negative attitude in the program. So on paper, we've got the best group we've ever had. If we can stray and stay away from the four greatest opponents, we got a chance to be pretty good.
Okay, so what is the difference in coaching in year 17 compared to, take me back to the thrilling days of yesteryear when you first arrived on campus in year 1? What is different here, not only from an institutional standpoint at IU South Bend, but also from an athletic standpoint, and how you're coaching differently between year 1 and year 17? That's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question. A lot of answers involved in that. But first of all, you know, when I came in 2006, we had just 2 sports at the time. So just from an athletic department standpoint, we've certainly added more sports. We're up to 8 now. We were up to 12. We discontinued men's and women's tennis and men's and women's cross country for, you know, reasons that made sense. So we're at 8. So the athletic department has changed significantly just in terms of the number of athletes. We went from, let's say, you know, 25 to 30 athletes to 130 to 40 athletes. So that's the answer to that part of it. In terms of the changes that have occurred within me for coaching, big difference over the years. I don't know how to explain that. Maybe it's just the natural progression of you know, getting better, growing more comfortable, figuring out what things work, what things don't work, and things like that. So, you know, I'm in a good place. I feel like I'm in a good place with my with what I'm doing coaching wise. I feel like our team is, you know, we're locked in. And that's another, let me just go off the path a little bit here to answer your question. In terms of teamness, which is, you know, ultimately the most important thing, I think that over the years I've learned better ways to create that culture and environment. And I mean, our group, certainly the last 3 years and this year is rock solid in that area of teamness. And when you have that as a foundation, then you got a chance to, you know, be pretty good, I think.
When you look at the group coming in, you brought in a talented class 3 or 4 years ago that has just continued to grow. Katie and Maddie Gard, Emma Fisher, those 3 right there are are going to go down as program changers. But you've brought in some other gals who have played pivotal roles in this team's success. Rachel Robards is a case in point. You talk about her. She's in her 5th season now, and she's a calming presence. Sarah Doy has just been a calming presence out there. And we can go up and down the line of the roster and talk about who is playing well and what their different roles are. When you have such a talented group, both offensively and defensively, is it hard to manage all those different moving parts, those different egos, those selfish players versus the selfless players? That's a whole bunch of things to manage.
So first of all, in terms of recruiting, I've always followed the path of my father, A, and then Keith Freeman, who I worked for at Valpo, V, B. And we've always tried to hit on character first kids, so that eliminates some of those selfish kind of problems. I mean, I don't think, as I go through our roster, I don't think we have one person on our team that has any of that in them. So that's not a problem. Having a large group of talented players, the way that we like to play involves having a lot of good players. So, because we play fast, as you know, Paul, offensively we want to really push the pressure, keep the ball moving down the floor, and then defensively we want to pick up full court and play man-to-man. We want to do that the whole game. So in order to play that way, we can't just have 6 girls, you know.
Sure.
I mean, ultimately we like to be able to play 10. And so the roster size and the talent that we have on the roster lends to our style of play as well. So, you know, it's a good situation to be in.
If you look at the landscape of the Chicagoland Collegiate Athletic Conference, there's so many different styles of play, from ONUs up and down the Grinnell system to some power teams, some teams that are very methodical. Can you talk about how your style of play really has tuned you in for success in this league?
Yeah. So I would say this. I would answer the question this way. Pressure is what we hang our hats on. And when you think about things, so as an offensive coach, you think about what things give us problems. And, you know, we don't see a lot of it. I guess you could call ONU's style pressure because they're trapping and everything. But it's a little unsound because, you know, whenever you put 2 people on the ball defensively, then you're playing 4-on-3 if they make a pass out of it. And we've kind of got that figured out over the years. So we want to just pressure people, pressure the ball in the backcourt, so make it difficult for the handler to have to just bring it up. We're not necessarily trying to steal it. We're just trying to harass them from the time the game starts to the time the game ends. We're trying to get in the passing lane so they can't make easy entry passes. We're trying to keep the ball on one side of the floor, which is kind of the old school man-to-man defensive style, so we don't allow people to reverse it. And so we make them have to put the ball on the floor and drive the ball and have to make plays. And so that's been good to us. I mean, it's been really good to us. And we have, A, the depth, and B, the athleticism to be able to do that. I don't think you could do that if you had, you know, if you had 6 deep and you were just moderately athletic. You know, we've got 10 deep and we're very athletic. So that ties together well with how we play defense. And then offensively, as I noted, I mean, we want to score in transition. We want to get the ball across the half court in no more than 3 seconds, and we want to put pressure on them having to retreat. So so I guess the word of the discussion here is pressure, whether that's offensive or defensive. And that style of play has been good to us.
Sarah Doy's calming influence on the floor has brought a whole new, I don't know how to say it, but her presence has just kept everybody at an even keel. Now, there's always a risk when you bring in other players that how will they mix into this? So you're bringing in Tia Chambers, 1,257 points at IU Kokomo, an outstanding performer there. And now you're going to bring her in here. Sarah and her went to high school together, so you've automatically got that connection going on right there. So if there's any tinkering with chemistry, you've kind of thrown that out the window because you got kids who already know each other. And so it's a unique situation for you here. So talk about the Doy-Chambers connection and how that is going to continue to help this team win games.
Well, I'll go back to the character first kind of thing in terms of recruiting. I mean, there's, at all programs, I think, and certainly at our program, we have people knocking at the door all the time to transfer. And so I look at that the same way I look at just bringing in someone who's a freshman. They've got to be high character kids. They have to be do-right kids that, you know, want to make good grades and be good representatives for our university and our program out in the community and all those kind of things. If they don't pass that test, I'm not interested. So one of my mentors once told me, so if you take character and you take work ethic and you take talent, he said that the bottom two, so talent and work ethic, without the first, character, will kill your team. So you can have a team that's full of talent, but if they don't have character, at some point they're going to self-destruct. And if they don't have work habits, at some point they're going to self-destruct. So in a roundabout way, I'm saying that, when Sarah Doy came into the picture here, as when Tia Chambers came into the picture here, I certainly did my research to find out what kind of character those two girls have, and in a lot of different ways. And they both, passed the test with flying colors. So, now we have additions to our team that fit in with the other girls that we have on our team, and we have that element of teamness that I mentioned earlier. So I want to make sure that whoever we take in is going to fit. And then, so side note from that, obviously then Tia and Sarah played in high school, and they were successful, and they know each other, and Tia was great at Kokomo, and Sarah had a nice career at Huntington. So all of those things kind of work together, and I'm excited to have those two together, and I'm sure they are for their one last hurrah here.
Final question, 25 wins, 8 losses, 17-5 in the CCAC. Is it safe to say I'm going to be really disappointed if this team doesn't make a deep national tournament run or finish in that top spot in the conference, and maybe look at this group as the first team in the history of IU South Bend women's basketball to win 30 games?
Well, I think all those things are possible, and those, our goals are win the conference, finish first in the league, advance to Iowa, which is a step forward from last year, and then see what happens there. This is another thing I tell our girls. I think we even have it written on our on the sheets that go in our notebooks, but it says IU South Bend has a chance to have a great season if IU South Bend doesn't lose to IU South Bend, if that makes sense. So
makes lots of sense.
Yes, sir. So we're ready to go and excited about our year.
Once again, Coach, thanks for taking time to be with us here on Media Day. And it's been a blast hanging out with you all these years.
Good. Thank you, Paul. My pleasure.
Once again, Steve Bruce, the women's basketball coach and athletic director here at Indiana University South Bend. We'll be back with more of IU South Bend Media Day right after this.